What's up, everybody? It is Patrick here. As you can see, we're doing a little different format. I'm testing out a camera that has been kind of in and out of my collection for a while, and I think I finally got it working properly, so I may start using it again a little more. It is the GoPro Hero 13 Black Edition. So if you see, it looks a little different angle and whatnot. That's what we're doing, because today we're not doing a Bible review. We're not going to do a verse-by-verse study. We're going to dive in to one of my favorite devotionals. I love this devotional so much because it really helps me grasp some of the great people throughout Christian history. And that's what the devotional is. It's the 1 year in Christian history devotional. I mention it a lot on the show, and you can pick it up over at the Amazon storefront. It's both available on Kindle, which is what I'm going to be using, which is the Kindle is actually on my iPad, or you can also pick it up in a paper copy, which is what got me started on it. I used to have the paper copy. And this is going to be a devotional from yesterday, actually. This was yesterday's, and it just really hit me when I read this, and in particularly one section in this devotional hit me hard. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do a show on this. So let's go ahead and dive in. And it's titled Triumph in the Face of Trial. Some are overcome by challenges, while others are able to triumph over them. And it says Edward Payson, or Payson probably is how you pronounce it, was such a person. He was born in 1783 in Rindge, New Hampshire, where his father was a pastor. Payson matriculated to Harvard in 1800 and quickly distinguished himself among his peers. He graduated in 1803 and took charge of the newly formed Portland Academy in Portland, Maine. In his first year at the school, Payson was shaken by the death of a younger brother. He felt that God had somehow chastened him through his brother's death. And we can have that feeling sometimes, can't we? We can feel like God is putting us through trials through the death of somebody else. You know, maybe the wake-up call is how I like to phrase it sometimes. He plunged into a year-long period of conviction of his sin, desire for holiness, and grief over his shortcomings. And I think all of these things are valid things, right? We should be convicted of our sin. We should be challenged by what we see as our shortcomings when it comes to God. He finally realized that despite his intellectual assent to the doctrine of the justification of faith alone, he was trying to earn merit with God through his own efforts. Let's go back to what I just said initially. I think it's natural to feel that conviction of sin, and we should be moved by the conviction of sin. But we shouldn't be moved by it to the point of thinking we, right, can earn our way out of it. We can somehow pull our way into justification. As a result, on his 22nd birthday, he was a spiritual milestone in his life as he covenanted with God to give him his total allegiance. In 1806, he resigned his position at the academy and returned home to study for the ministry. In spite of his new spiritual direction, he was still battling his emotions. Don't we all do that, right? Today, he would be diagnosed with having bipolar disease. One minute he was supremely happy, the next minute he was in the deep depths of despair. Ladies and gentlemen, I suffer with this same thing. I think one of the big things that the church, the big C church, okay, and by extension, some small C churches have a problem dealing with is mental health and mental illness. I 100% suffer from bipolar. I am on medication for it because I believe that Christians should take the medication for it. I don't fall into the Christian Science Monitor camp where you don't take medication for anything. No, we should be taking it to help us out. It's not only if you just pray more, you won't have it anymore. That's a bunch of garbage, okay? So it's very important when I read things like this, I always can connect with it. In addition to his mood swings, Payson had physical problems. Welcome to the club there. Throughout his life, he was afflicted with migraine headaches that often left him prostrate in pain for days at a time. In later years, his insomnia would affect him. After a fall from a horse in 1807 dislocated his arm, leading eventually to its paralysis. So when he had physical problems, he had physical problems. In August 1807, Payson was back in Portland preaching at Second Congregational Church. He accepted the call as assistant pastor and stayed at the church for the rest of his life. In his first year at the church, he married Louisa. That's a name you don't hear a whole lot anymore, by the way. Shipman. They had 8 children, including Elizabeth Payson Prentice. That's a pretty famous hymn author there, who became a hymn writer, authoring More Love to Thee, O Christ, and many, many others. Soon after Payson began his work at the church, he developed tuberculosis and nearly died. But he recuperated enough to continue his ministry, and almost immediately revival began at the church. His first year, 29 came to know Christ. Then 42 for the 2 years in a row. In 1811, the senior pastor retired, and Payson, then 28, became pastor. God richly blessed his ministry, and for the rest of his life, the church averaged, now listen to this, for the rest of his life, the church averaged 35 conversions a year, with 79 in the year of his death. At the age of 44, Payson's body gave out. His paralysis spread to other parts of his body, and he was often in acute pain. He and those around him knew he was dying, yet despite his discomfort, his joy was intense. On September 19th, 1827, a month before his death, he dictated a letter to his sister. And here is what got me. This letter is what just made me go, wow. Listen to this. Dear sister, were I to adopt the figurative language of Bunyan, I might say and date this letter from the land of the balloon, on which I have been for some weeks a happy inhabitant. The celestial city is in full view. The glories beam upon me. Its breeze fan me. And the Spirit is breathed into my heart. Nothing separates me from it but the river of death, which now appears but for an insignificant rill that may be crossed in a single step, whenever God shall give permission. The Sun of Righteousness has been gradually drawn nearer and nearer, appearing larger and brighter as he approached. And now he fills the whole hemisphere, pouring forth a flood of glory. And now, my dear sister, farewell. Hold in your Christian course but a few days longer, and we will meet in heaven. Your happy and affectionate brother, Edward Payson. What a gorgeous letter. And this man is writing this knowing he is days, minutes, hours from death. Here's the reflection. Do you have physical problems, mental problems, or emotional problems? If you haven't experienced any of them, you probably will in the future. God doesn't grant us exemption from problems more than he did Edward Payson, but he can enable us to look past them to the glory that lies ahead for the believer. Yet, what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory he will give us later. That's Romans 8:18, of course. What are you struggling with today? What is it that you are challenged with, physically, emotionally, or mentally? And whatever it is, are you leaning into God? Are you pushing past what it is through God? Because that's what we're called to do. I pray that we all are doing this today. I pray that we don't let our physical limitations hold us back from doing what God has called us to do. This has been Patrick with A Guy in His Bible. PatrickRyanLewis.com is where you can find the information about me. And remember, visit the Amazon storefront for all the devotionals that I use and all the Bibles that we talk about here on the show. And tomorrow, we will dive into another Bible from my collection and walk through it and walk through the Word of God together. I'll talk to you then. Have a great day, everybody.